Hi, I'm Praxis, and my roof, it's covered with solar panels. I've got solar panels on the ground too. I have different kinds of solar panels. These don't make electricity. These just heat water. The sun's actually pretty good at heating things up. That thing right back there, that gray thing, that's a parabolic solar cooker. The other side of it's all covered in mirrors, and it's really great at heating up water. It's put away for the winter though. We'll get back to that in a moment. And this here, this is a sun oven. I cook all sorts of things in here, from beans, chili, lasagna, chicken, salmon. Pretty much anything can get cooked in this thing. Overall, the sun's really good at heating things up and creating energy. But in this video, these are the solar collection devices I want to talk about. These are solar hot water panels, and they work with a complete solar hot water system that I have set up here at my house. And I hate them. Hey everybody, this is Praxis. Now, is that too harsh? Is it too harsh for me to say that I hate those solar panels? Yeah, probably. Hate's a strong word, but I severely dislike them. But it's not because I love pollution. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm a crazy granola-eating, tree-hugging eco-nut. If Captain Planet were still recruiting people for his team of eco-terrorists, he'd have my paperwork. We're standing right now in my greenhouse. The last two houses that I've built have been very green, very eco-friendly, and have had greenhouses on all of them. I love this stuff. This channel that you're watching this on, this is about emergency preparedness and homesteading. I got into all this stuff because I was so into green technologies. I got into self-sufficiency because I was into permaculture. So when I was building this house and the government told me that I needed to install those solar hot water panels because of some kind of like eco-green credit scheme, despite the fact that I dislike being told that I had to do something, I was kind of interested, kind of curious, and also despite the fact that I'd heard some negative things about them in the past from people who are also in the green energies industries, I was going to give them a fair shot. And here we are a couple of years later, and I severely dislike solar hot water as a technology. Now, in some places, it might work great. Under some circumstances, it might work great. But in my area, with my circumstances, it's a terrible idea. And here's why. My particular circumstance is that I wanted to create a house that was as off-grid and energy independent as possible. Because of that, I have all those solar panels on my roof. Those are solar electric panels, and up on top of my roof, I have 6,000 watts of them. And they work really well. They power my whole house. Right now, they're running the light that's illuminating my face, and they charge the batteries that are running this camera. Solar power is a wonderful way to go. Even on a day like today, where it's kind of overcast, there's still enough sunlight coming in and hitting my panels that I can still run my entire house just using their power. But the one Achilles heel of my entire house is the hot water generation. On cloudy days, like today, the solar hot water panels don't heat up enough in order to create any hot water. While the solar electric panels are creating at least some energy, the solar hot water panels never get up to a critical temperature where any of the pumps even start flowing. They make zero. And that's even the case on many days where there's a lot of sun. If there's a lot of sun on a day and it's not a particularly warm day, but there are clouds that are passing in front of the sun, the solar hot water panels will start to heat up when the sun hits them, and then a cloud will go in front of them and they'll completely cool off. And then the sun will come back and they'll begin to warm up again. And then a cloud will come by and they'll completely cool off. And that cycle just repeats and repeats and repeats, and they never get up to that critical level where they actually have enough heat in them to provide any hot water to the house. Meanwhile, my solar electric system, every single time a photon flies out of the sun and hits one of my panels, some energy gets created. Even if it's not a lot, even if it's a day when it's partly sunny and partly cloudy, I at least generate quite a bit of electricity and power from my solar electric system. But there are so many days when the solar hot water system creates nothing. It'll heat up a little and cool off, heat up a little and cool off, but it never reaches that critical point to where it actually creates any benefit for me. Now, if I hadn't been forced by the state to put those solar hot water panels on that roof, I could have put extra solar electric panels on that roof, and that would have provided more electric power so that on cloudy days, I'd have that little bit of extra electric power for heating water, because using electric power to heat water is what I do 90% of the time on any day that has any kind of an overcast component to it. And it's not just the real estate on my roof that I lost by being forced to put those solar hot water panels up there. It's also the financial investment that I lost by having to pay for that entire system. If I could have taken the money that it cost to put the solar hot water panels on my roof and buying the special water tank that interfaces with them, I could have taken all of that money and I could have effectively doubled the size of my solar electric system. Had I been able to do that, it never would have been any kind of an issue at all whatsoever, just completely heating my water with electric power, which again, for much of the year, is what I'm doing anyway. Now, that said, there are many days, especially in the summer, when the solar hot water system works just fine. The sun comes out, it's hot, it's blazing, there's no clouds in the sky, and it creates lots and lots of hot water, and that's great. It works very effectively during those time periods. But those time periods also happen to be, you can imagine not surprisingly, days when I'm making tons of solar electric power anyway. So the only time that the solar hot water system actually functions effectively is on days when I didn't even need it. Additional to that, I mentioned that there's a special tank that interfaces with the solar hot water panels. It has a circulator pump that engages, and it runs the glycol solution that is actually running through the panels. The panels don't have hot water itself running through. They have this glycol that heats up, and then that transfers its heat to the water. A lot of those parts, the pump in particular, can't be insulated. So you have this 140 plus degree hot glycol pump that's just sitting in your house. And like I mentioned, the times of the year when that pump tends to be the most effective is during the summer. So you have the hottest times of the year are the times when that pump actually tends to be running, and it is essentially a radiator dumping heat out into your home. In my case, that system was put into my pantry. A pantry is a kind of place that you want to keep kind of cool. Now, it was sort of foolish of me to put it in my pantry. I only did that because I wasn't aware that it was going to shed so much more heat than a normal hot water tank. But having put it there, it created an enormous heat issue in my pantry, which I'm trying to keep cool for food. And even if I didn't have a pantry there, the last thing you want to have in your house during the summer, anywhere in your house, is some kind of a hot water radiator. Now again, jumping back, if I had been able to do the system the way that I had preferred to do it, using just solar electric panels, I would have had twice as many panels, twice as much power, and I also could have used a different type of hot water heating tank known as a heat pump system. Now, a heat pump system is actually pretty cool. While it is running, no pun intended, while it is running, it generates cool into the environment around it. What it is doing, it is grabbing warmth from the ambient air around it, and it is pumping, heat pumping, that heat into your water. Now, that is great if that's running during the summer because it can help to air condition your house. And specifically, if you're going to keep something like that in your pantry, you would be generating cool for your pantry while you generate warmth for your hot water. And all that sounds to me like it makes a heck of a lot of sense, which makes it not that surprising that the government decided to go in the opposite direction, creating the system that I was forced to put into my house. And a system like this was not at all alone. There were other crazy environmental rules that I had to follow while I was putting this whole house together for myself. And again, I'm going to bring you back to what I said at the beginning. If Captain Planet were taking recruits, he'd have my paperwork on his desk. This is a goal of mine, as much as the government claims that it's a goal of theirs to try to reduce emissions and lower our footprint here on this planet. I personally also like the fact that I save an awful lot of money using self-sufficiency and permaculture designs in my house. But another way that the government really threw a wrench into that was in the window selection of my house. While I was building this house, I found out about a new technology. It was a type of window that would allow heat energy in to the house, but not let heat energy out. And in the winter, you can imagine the appeal of that. You have the warm winter sun coming in through your windows, heating your home, but it's preventing that same heat from going out of your house. It's kind of like a unidirectional, like a one-way mirror, where it lets heat energy in, but doesn't let that same heat energy out. I was really excited when I learned about this because any way that you can capitalize on the free energy that the sun dumps on you for either cooking or creating electricity, or in this case, heating hot water, it's always a great opportunity to try to use the sun's energy instead of fossil fuels or other types of fuel sources. So I was really excited when I heard about these windows, and I was really disappointed when I found out that the government was not going to allow me to put them in. Their reasoning was that they said that while that might be great during the winter, in the summertime, you're going to have these windows in your house And despite the fact that the sun comes in at a much steeper angle in the summer and doesn't penetrate into your house as deeply, you're going to get some heat in your house from these windows during the summertime, and you're going to forget two things. One, you're going to forget that windows can be opened. I guess that just doesn't cross people's minds. If it gets hot in your house, you can open your windows. But okay, let's bar that. I know a lot of people just don't like to have their windows open during the summer. A lot of people like to have air conditioning. Air conditioning is never anything that I've ever wanted to use or needed to use. In my opinion, I always build houses so they don't need it the best I can when I'm not having, the government forcing me to put hot water systems in my house that are like radiators in my house. I understand that a lot of people don't want to open up their windows, but there's another technology that's been around for at least a couple of years here called an awning, where you can have a window and you can have an awning over it, and the awning protects you from the summer sun but lets the winter sun in. So there are all sorts of technologies, there are all sorts of wonderful ways of creating structures, creating homes that could work beautifully, elegantly with our environment, like a little feather floating in the breeze as opposed to a big stomping footstep. But in a lot of ways, you're prevented from using a lot of those technologies by a lot of governmental rules that claim to be there to try to protect the environment. So if you're in a situation where you are building a house and you are pondering the idea of whether to install a solar hot water system and you have a choice, I would highly recommend, instead of going with a solar hot water system, get yourself extra solar electric panels. The energy that they are creating for you is going to be useful for so many other things, and the cost of getting a heck of a lot more solar panels versus an entire solar hot water system really, for me, makes it a no-brainer. And the idea that you don't have to have a hot water radiator radiating heat into your house during the summer is just icing on the cake. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you'd like to see an entire series, day by day, of building this house that I'm in right now, from the ground up, starting when it was a forest, all the way up to today, there's a link at the end of this video. Please subscribe for new videos all the time, and if you'd like to support this channel, you can do so either through Patreon or PayPal.